you doing, Craig?
Hey, doing good.
And always my partner in crime, Scott Benson.
Hey, everybody.
Right. So we're excited to have another conversation with Craig today, talk about Corona, California. And as always, we start our show off with something fun. And that is the three things you have to guess who they're related to. So first one is this person had a nickname called El Milusos. This person had a nickname called El Milusos.
What does that mean?
Well, that means a man of 1,000 uses.
Oh,
Spanish.
okay.
Man of 1,000 uses. Yes, there was a. At least that's what I understand from this person. Okay, so another person on our team used to steal cars for a living. Yeah, so we have
some surly people here.
We've had a drug dealer. We've had a dating service.
Yeah.
And we had somebody that would steal cars. And then lastly, this person rode a motorcycle from Sturgis to Chicago to Tulsa, Oklahoma in 30 hours, which means there was no break, no stop.
I know who that is without you even saying anything. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get this camera thing going.
Yeah. Now you look good, Craig.
Did I cut my hat off?
You look not a year over 50. Craig's like, I'm 42. No, it's good. You look perfect, Craig. Don't worry. You're perfect.
All right.
Yeah, that's it.
So, what is going on in Corona, California this week?
Corona. Because I've been dealing with this camera thing, I haven't really paid attention to the market. However, I can tell you this. Back in 04, 05, 06, we had in between 300, here I can tell you right now how many we have. But back then we had between 300 and 500 homes on the market. With that few homes, those few homes, houses were selling in 3 days. If the house was on the market for more than 3 days, we wondered what the heck was wrong with the house. Today, we have 187 homes.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Now, I have to tell you that Corona and East Vale were separate at that time. They're not now. I'm sorry, they were together at that time. They're separate now. So, but that's a very few amount of homes, and buyer activity has increased quite a bit because rates have gone down. You guys know that. So, yeah, it's heating up to be a good spring market right now.
Oh,
yeah, we're expecting big volumes. Everything that we're seeing, because there was a big slowdown, it's going to have a pent-up demand. It's going to start hitting the market. People that were kind of waiting around, see what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Every person that we've talked to, every area across the country is seeing a very significant increase in volume of activity. So I think buyers would do themselves well to get into this now, because if it keeps going at this rate, it's going to get harder and harder, and the bids are going to become more and more competitive. So,
yep.
Greg, I know you like data. So I don't know if you saw Core Logic data that came out yesterday, but number one, we had a 121 month streak of rise in house pricing. 121 months. It was unprecedented year. Well, wow. 121 months. Yeah. So however that divides into 12, but they saw in December, actually last year, it was a 6.9% increase, even with the drop. So they still saw a 6.9% increase. December, they saw it drop by 0.4%. They expect to drop 0.3% in January, but they're predicting for this year, with this supposed bubble, a 3% increase in appreciation this year.
Yeah.
All of which to say was supporting what you're seeing, boots on the ground, that houses are moving, there's no bubble, real estate is back stronger than ever, and it's now, again, it's always a good time to buy, but if you're trying to time the market, that you've already missed the boat. It's time to get in there now.
It's funny. I was looking at some stats, and it was last year's expected increase, and then this year's expected increase, or maybe it was 2 years ago and then last year. But when I went back and looked at the actual increase, yeah, no, it was last year and this year, and I was able to look at the current increase in pricing. you would have looked at those numbers and thought, absolutely crazy. Absolutely no way.
Yeah.
But in reality, they were off by only like 1% or 2%. It was crazy.
That's, yeah, it's, you know, every, and we say this all the time, but it's never a bad time. Because Ted and I were looking at, even just from, depending upon which area of the country you look at, there were different peaks hit last year, and then there was a little bit of this drop off. But if you were to take that peak and you were to take to today, and then you were also to take into account the savings that you are generating by buying a house versus being in a rental program, you know, in terms of tax savings and the value of paying your loan down, or as an investor with the depreciation, in either scenario, you'd still be significantly ahead, having bought at that absolute peak time to today in that scenario. So, I mean, it continues to point out that, hey, if you're really seriously in the market and you're considering something, you shouldn't wait, jump in and start accruing the advantages right away. And
there are many advantages. It's not just one.
Yeah, for sure. So, hey, and Greg, I think last week, if I remember correctly, I think you had also promised us
That's right.
A Hollywood story, a celebrity story about Corona. It can't be about Lucy. But so I remember there's going to be something else. So I'm dying to kind of hear the story. So this may not have been in the agenda. This might not be the right point, but I'd still like to know what the story is.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, Corona, a lot of people, you know, it's funny, if you drive the freeway and you look at Corona, you're like, that's a no-nothing town. Mm-hmm. And you would think that it's, you know, I mean, it doesn't look great. Now, if you see video and you walk the neighborhood and that kind of thing, you will see a very different Corona than what you see when you drive past it on the freeway. And celebrities have figured that out. So some people who have lived here, Mike Trout, we do actually have a lot of baseball players that, you know, like.
That makes sense.
MLB. Huh?
I said that makes sense. Yeah. You know,
lots of them. Up in the hills, we've got these massive houses. You know, there's 10, 15,000 square foot homes, theaters in them, and the whole thing with beautiful views. So Mike Trout, there's another gal, I can't remember her name. I'm looking at some notes here. But the one that I wanted to talk about, J.R. Smith, Josh, so lots of people, but the one that I wanted to talk about was, and I don't know if, do you know the band Blink-182?
Yeah,
absolutely. So the drummer, Travis Barker.
Yeah.
Travis Barker does not look brilliant.
Her husband to, not Jenner, what's the other one? Kardashian. Didn't Travis Barker get married?
Yes.
To sister.
One of the Kardashians, yeah. But you look at him and you would not necessarily think, oh, this guy's got his stuff together, and he's a very successful businessman. He owns a Wahoo's here in Corona. It's actually on the edge of Corona Norco. He's got a clothing company.
Oh, wow.
Famous Stars and Straps is the name of the company. He's in or has been in, like, I think he played in 3 bands at the same time. And I mean, he's a super accomplished person, but he used to live here in Corona on a very famous street called Garrison. And in fact, the home that they used in MTV Cribs is this home here in Corona. And my son, who was learning how to drum, oh, by the way, Kobe Bryant used to live here. My son was learning how to drum, and Travis Barker was like his idol, right? So, I mean, drumming wise, not human, you know, personality.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a drug addict. And Travis is actually not a drug addict, but you know what I mean? It's funny, he's got lots of tattoos, and my son is getting lots of tattoos. I don't know, maybe you want him to be everything like Travis, but all that to say, he's probably 9 or 10 years old. No, I think he was 11 years old. He's standing in line at the mall from 5 a.m. to get Travis Barker, to meet Travis Barker. He didn't even want a signature. So I met up with him again a couple hours later, at like, 8 or something. I go, hey son, do you have anything for him to sign? He goes, no. I go, why don't we get a drum head and have him sign that? No, Dad, that's stupid. That's stupid. I go, look, you'll never have this chance again. So I run home, I grab a drum, and I hand it to him, and he's standing in line with his drum head, and or with his drum. It's actually a snare drum. And he gets up to Travis, such a nice guy. His kids were there and everything, super nice guy. And he grabs this drum. He goes, hey, what's your name, bud? And he says, Ethan. And he turns the drum over, and these pieces inside are rattling because they've fallen out from all the drumming and all the vibration, right? And he looks at Ethan and he goes, Ludwig drums? And Ethan's like, yeah. He goes, my first drum set was Ludwig, and that's what they do. They like fall apart, right? So he signs his name, and as he's signing, by the way, he's head down. Hey, bud, what's up? Yeah, okay, what's your name? Yeah. And he's just on to the next person, on to the next person. I go, hey, Travis. He goes, yeah, bud, what's up? He didn't even look up at me. And I go, hey, do you miss the Garrettson house? Because he was living in Hollywood at the time, or LA somewhere. And he goes, oh, man, I do miss that house. All right, and he's back to it. He really loved that house. You could tell.
Yeah.
It's in such a beautiful area. Of course, he's going to love the house. He's in the middle of hustle and bustle now. So,
yeah. Well,
that's our claim to fame. Travis Parker.
That's great. Craig, you give me
as I'm driving new, people who are new to the city, as I'm driving them around the city. And by the way, here's a fun Corona fact. Most of the people who sell a house in Corona move to another house in Corona. So that's how tight this city is. But anybody that's coming in, usually from Orange County, and they don't really know Corona, and maybe they only know what they saw off the freeway, I'll take them up into those neighborhoods and show them those massive houses. And hey, this is where Travis Barker used to live. And this is, all of these things. And it's really something. I mean, it's I think it helps solidify to them that, hey, I'm moving out of nice Orange County, right, into this city that I don't know anything about. Oh, well, there's normal homes and $1 million homes a quarter mile away. Okay, all right, I can live here.
Yeah.
It's so deceiving the way you describe that, because driving through on a freeway, you think you know a city and you have no clue. I'll give you an example. Like here in Vegas, the freeway it's just rocks. Like you have these rocks surrounding you, nothing in the median. Where in California, I'm used to having big medians with plants and these plants growing. It's green, but you get off the freeway and you start going around, then you discover what it's all about. But I mean, driving the freeway is the worst thing you can do to figure out what a community looks like. I can totally relate to what you're saying.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, and if you live in Redondo, there are no freeways to go through here. You have to drive down secondary streets for half an hour to get to a freeway, which is part of the reason this one kind of stays off the map for a lot of people, because people are like, oh my God, if you have to drive into LA, forget about it. It's way too far.
I've been on business calls with Scott, and he's riding one of those Lime scooters. Is that what they're called? Lime
scooter.
Yeah. He's riding a Lime scooter on a conference call with me because he can get faster to his office on a Lime scooter than he could drive.
Oh my God.
True story.
Is that like those birds or whatever they are?
Yeah. And I do have a story about that. So one time I'm coming back from LAX, I'm on one of those little Lime scooters because I couldn't get Uber, couldn't get a taxi, couldn't get anything. Everything was completely backed up. I'm like, all right, forget about it. At that point I was in Venice, not too far. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to walk to one of those scooters. I'm going to hop on. I'm driving it home. Everything's fine. It's like 11 o'clock at night. It's kind of dark, right? So I'm cruising around, going down through Venice. And then what I did realize is with those little bitty scooters, when you hit a road that has a chunk of concrete missing in it, those little itty bitty Lime wheels dig into that and you keep going, but your scooter stops. So I got a suitcase in one hand, backpack with my computer on the other. I go flying over the front handlebars on this little scooter. Yeah. So
Scott,
no Lime scooters at night. Yeah.
Scott has the most LA stories to tell. Because what's the car you have? Is it a 64 Falcon convertible?
63
Falcon convertible.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact he's driven that to the airport convertible, top down, valeted that car at the airport, left the top down, and they didn't know how to drive it out of there. Tell Scott, help me finish the story here.
Well, so LAX, they opened up a valet parking at Southwest Terminal 1. And I pull in, I'm going to park. I've just got a quick trip that I'm taking. So this 63 Ford Falcon convertible was the first car to be valet parked. They had a red carpet. I roll it up onto the red carpet, hand them the keys. Actually, I left the car on. That's what it was. I left the car on. They go, they park it. I come back that night. I see the car right there. And I said, hey, just so you know, it's a manual choke. And I'm explaining to him how you got to do all this stuff. And the guy's looking at me like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. It's a kid. He's like 19 years old. He's like, no, you better drive that thing. So, so it was the first. I need to get like a little sticker on there, first valet parked car at LAX, right? And it's kind of cool. So,
Can you not see Scott driving a convertible? Can you not see Scott driving a convertible, 60 convertible to the valet in Southwest? So isn't that just LA? And isn't that Scott? Maybe a surfboard hanging out in the back.
Right. Lincoln Lawyer.
Have you seen the new one on Netflix?
The what?
No.
There's a new one. Scott, I told you about it earlier this week. Lincoln Lawyer. There's a series on Netflix now, based in LA. It's awesome. So highly recommend it. It's really good. Obviously, similar to the movie that you're referencing. Craig, loan programs. Do you have many I-10 borrowers, or do you even know what that is?
No.
So I-10 is somebody that's authorized to work in the U.S., but instead of having a social security card, they have an I-10 number. They legally file their taxes, and they can be either self-employed or W-2'd. We can get them a loan. We can go 80% loan to value on a purchase, and a cash out refi, we can go 70% or 75%. I got to double check. Up to $1.5 million with one of my lenders. Now we have several lenders that do this, but I wanted to talk about a program today for an I-10 borrower, especially being by the border there. I imagine you have some workers that maybe don't have Social Security and they have an I-10 number, so maybe prevalent to where the regional where you live.
Yeah.
So
so
not as exciting as the cake program, but it's still a loan program.
Wow. We've had more and more people talk to us about the CAPE program, and in some of the scenarios they've come up with, how it would be useful, I think is really kind of cool. But this is important, and we talk about this. We talk about foreign nationals coming in and what kind of records they need to have, bringing to the table in the different programs too. But we do have a lot of international people in California, and Ted, I would imagine you get a lot of international buyers in Vegas too.
Oh, absolutely,
So a lot of people aren't aware of the types of programs that are available for them. They do have to do a little bit of work in terms of building up their credit if they're new here. But with the right kind of documentation, we'll even take a lot of the foreign documentation. You just have to have it translated into English, and then it can help them qualify for the loan. So there's some good programs out there.
So 20% down. Where's the FICO score need to be?
They go down as low as 680.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's an easy loan.
Yeah,
for sure.
As
long as you have the document. Go ahead. Sorry.
Those rates won't be quite as good as your traditional FHA loans, that kind of stuff, but still some good rates, and rates are obviously moving in the right direction. So if they want to get into a place, there's some really good loan programs available for them.
So as long as you have an ITIN number, ITIN, is that what you call it? Okay. Yep. So that's it's not a social, it's a tax identification number, individual tax identification. Is that right?
Yep. Okay. And they can be self-employed or W-2 employed.
All right.
Yeah.
So
that's
got a program for everybody. We got a program for everybody, Craig.
Yes. Hey, I'm learning that.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
So, and Craig, I wanted to say, you were really helpful to us yesterday in terms of helping us with some of the automations that we're working on as we continue to build the upgrades in our technology platform. So, really appreciate that. I know that you are a big user of technology, in terms of finding opportunities to work on and the way in which you're communicating with your clients to make sure they stay up to date. And we're trying to do the same thing here, integrating multiple platforms in. So it's not just a single solution that we're bringing to the table, but the best of the best tools all integrated into one platform, because we believe when you do that, we can give our borrowers the right tools that they can evaluate all of the programs that would, potentially be available to them, and make sure that they really understand the pros and cons of each program. And then, I know on your side, you do such a wonderful job staying in touch with your clients at every step of the way, making sure that the process is smooth and you're keeping them up to speed on the latest buying opportunities if you're serving as a buyer and representative for them. So anyway, wanted to point it out. So Craig's been a part of helping us build out our platform, and we really appreciate your help.
I love that you guys have found, and I mean, I've seen it too. I just didn't have the wherewithal. I wanted to, but never took that step forward to say, hey, look, I'm tired of Frankensteining all this stuff, and putting this stuff together and duct taping all these different systems. And you guys are just saying, hey, well, let's take the best of all of them and the things that we need, but we have to go here for that. We got to go there for that. And this one's pretty good, but could be better. And you're putting it all together and building it yourself. I feel like an NPC standing next to you guys. I'm a non-playable character. I'm just sitting here, just kind of doing my thing, and you guys are building stuff. It's amazing. I love it.
Well, we're lucky. We've got a programming guru on the backside that has built out a lot of platforms. And really what we're doing is we primarily serve as the interface to say, okay, here's what we want from this tool and that tool. Here's how it all has to come together. And then he has his team of programmers that do the back end build and support. So those systems are going to keep coming together. So for our clients that are working with us today, know that the technology support that we've given you to date is going to continue to get better and better and grow stronger and stronger. So I think it's going to be fun to see how this develops over the next 3 to 6 months.
Hey, Craig, I got a question for you. Being a 20-year veteran of real estate, what advice can you give to a realtor in this market to, continue to grow and stay active and produce and become a full-time realtor like you?
What advice? So the advice I always give people, you're talking about like somebody just starting or about to get into real estate?
Or in real estate, just somebody you have somebody that's in real estate right now. Maybe they've been in for a year. Maybe they've got their license. But again, you've been through everything. You've been in for 20 years. So what advice could you give them to help grow their business and be successful?
Well, you got to meet the people. So you got to get out there and do that. And it's so much easier now because we can put stuff on online, We can ask people to share videos. We put videos online. Video is key because you go from nobody knowing who you are and you have no exposure and no influence to, oh, I've got a little bit, and then tomorrow I've got a little bit more, and then a little bit more. So I would say you've got to build out some internet channels and be on video.
And be consistent with it. You can't just put one video up and, okay, I'm done.
Right.
You got to be on it each and every day and stay with it, right? You got it. Consistency is the key to anything.
Right.
So, all right, let's reveal. Let's do the revelation of who's who. So, Scott, who are you in our mystery?
So I'm the crazy man that drove a motorcycle from Sturgis to Chicago to Tulsa, Oklahoma without stopping. And such an idiot I am on a motorcycle. You guessed that, right, Craig?
I knew that.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I had talked about Sturgis before, so.
Okay, all right. So there you go. To show you how stupid I really was. So I stayed an extra day in Sturgis because I wanted to listen to another concert that was going to be on another extra night. So I left my time because normally I would have driven to Chicago with my buddy, stayed overnight, and then left, right? Couldn't do that this time because I had to be back for work. So anyway, I drove straight. So I'm hitting the end of my trip, right? My ass is done. I'm numb. I can't feel anything because I've been on this bike forever, cruising down the highway. And you know how if you're really tired and you're driving behind the wheel and your head's nodding off like this, right?
Yeah.
It's really bad in a car. It's horribly bad on a motorcycle to wake up and realize you're driving 75 miles an hour down the highway on a motorcycle. I was stupid enough to do that. Thank God I lived. I will never do that again, but I did do that. So yeah, that's my story.
Diana, the whole way, right?
Isn't that scary?
Yeah. Crazy.
Craig, Tell us what you used to do.
What are you, Craig?
How did you tease that out? I can't remember. I was fiddling with my camera, which, by the way, somebody who's into technology, you think you'd have a better camera. I got to figure this thing out.
Well, so one of us, I mean, it's going to be you. I'm going to reveal it. Used to steal cars for a living.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought you went for the provocative one. So, yeah.
We have children watching the show.
Thank you very much. Okay. So I partnered with a longtime friend, and he had always done credit repair. You guys may have paid him some money to clean up some of the credit from a client who had less than good credit. But he also did some repos on the side. So we started a repossession company, and I had taken a couple of cars. One of them we won't talk about because it's a kid show, right? Well, it's not a kid show, but kids may be watching. But leaving that person behind and taking her car, it just broke my heart. I'm like, I cannot do this anymore. So it was a very short living, very short, business for a living. But
that's a rough job because you have situations like that, and it's also dangerous. I mean, people come after you.
Oh yeah, yep, had that too. Again, a very short. I may have been 2 months. Went out 4 or 5 nights a week, and
I think I'm done.
Yep, had somebody coming after us. We had that one situation. We left this lady curbside, and it's just nasty. So
yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal.
All right, so last but not least, we have El Milusos, right? And this is a nickname given to me because it's jack of all trades. And I'm one of those guys that has his hands in everything, can do everything, can learn everything. And so I earned the nickname El Milusos. I even had a license plate on the back of my truck that said El Milusos on it. In fact, there's a Spanish show, a movie. I've yet to see it, but there's a guy, the show's called El Milusos, and there's actually, if you look it up, there's a couple of them. And it was a guy that left a small town to the big town, and he was a jack of all trades that could do everything, and his name was El Milusos. So, for the Real Estate Mortgage Insiders, we have Craig Yace, Scott Bitton. I'm El Milusos.